What's up, DJ? Chelsea. So I went through the churn analysis. Chelsea, awesome job just getting all those numbers together. And here's what we kind of got based on the criteria that we selected, right? So here's the churn predictors, here's the description, the data rules. Based on what we put together, our strongest correlated predictor is just a coach stops using, right? So greater than 14 days predicts at 16%. And that was, significantly more than these two. And athletes stop logging training sessions using this rule. Total athletes logging sessions is less than 10%. Gave us 15%. So I started to play with this stuff quite a bit because I'm like, gosh, looking at the example that Mad Kudu churn predictor showed us, they had something that like correlated almost at 38%, right? So I went in and just tweaked the rules a little bit. And by tweaking a couple things, so rather than saying athletes stop complying, if the athletes are just not viewing training sessions, so less than 10%, that factor went up almost to 20%, right? And then if the athletes are not logging training sessions, so quite literally 0% of training sessions being logged over 30 days, the predictor was 20%. So just something to consider if we went with these metrics and just kind of slid the threshold over a little bit or lowered that, or however you want to perceive that, we kind of attack these two as our primary opportunities versus, coach stops using is really the first thing that we'd consider given our initial rules and results. And obviously we can play with this stuff as much as we want. I think this will be much more clear on the conversion side as to what the predictors are. But on the churn side, this didn't give me anything that was like a surprise by any stretch, and also unfortunately didn't really give us anything that was crazy correlated. So if you want to look at the correlation computations, you can find those here, right? So you can see, and this took me a while to kind of really grasp, but if a coach stops using Train Heroic in the last 14 days, right? So this, out of the 100 churn customers, this happened 64 times, right? Where they stopped using it. So you're like, okay, cool. 64% of churn customers fit this criteria. That seems strongly correlated. But the reason it's not so strongly correlated is, well, 410 of our 1,159 existing customers haven't logged in for 14 days. So it's not necessarily a huge indicator of churn, right? So anyways, you'll find these calculations throughout here. And then for the additional considerations, I ran those calculations just so you can see. So for example, even, this idea of like viewing training sessions 0%, I raised it from 0 to less than 10%, and it really didn't change the correlation a whole lot. Right, and same thing here for logging a training session. I went from 0 to 5 to see how that would change the threshold, and it did actually quite significantly. So we can play with this as much as we want. I've got a good understanding for how this whole thing works. Thanks a ton for your hard work and efforts on it, and let me know if I can do anything else here and kind of what the next steps are. So thanks, you too.